Spinal Tap 2, The End Continues, hits theaters this weekend, and FYI, if you're planning on hiring a babysitter and you're getting tickets for an AMC theater, their pre-show ads and trailers run about 25 to 30 minutes long, and the movie's about 85 minutes, so if you decide to go to a 9 p.m. showing, those are going to go to 11. Hello everybody, I'm Dan Murrell here with my thoughts on Spinal Tap 2, The End Continues, the long-awaited by some sequel to This Is Spinal Tap. It comes from the same team that brought us the first film, director and co-writer Rob Reiner, who also plays documentarian Marty DeBurgi, and co-writers and stars Christopher Guest, Michael McKean, and Harry Shearer, who also play the titular band. Now, up until now, This Is Spinal Tap was one of the most iconic comedies ever made to never spawn a sequel, but here we have one 41 years after the original film, and the track record for comedy sequels is not great, especially delayed ones, but with the original creative minds returning, I had some hope going into this one. If you haven't seen This Is Spinal Tap, and if you haven't, you should go watch it right now. It is a mockumentary/rockumentary about a fictional band from England and their slow decline into obscurity framed against an ill-fated US tour. Spinal Tap 2 picks up 41 years later as the band members who have separated despite a resurgence following the original movie's release reunite for one last contractually obligated show in New Orleans, trying to recapture the magic that made them so successful to begin with. Now, as the movie starts, there is a lot of humor in seeing where these three ended up. Michael McKean's David St. Hubbins is writing music for podcasts, Harry Shearer's Derek Smalls runs a glue museum, and Christopher Guest's Nigel Tufnell runs a combination cheese/guitar store. But the bulk of the movie is about their stormy reunion, particularly between David and Nigel, who are still struggling to put aside their past differences and remember their childhood friendship, what got them into music to begin with. We get a few cameos from side characters that were in the original movie, but they're exceptionally brief, and honestly, they don't add a whole lot to the story. Luckily, the new characters do work, including Carrie Godleman as Hope, the daughter of the group's original manager Ian, and Chris Addison as Simon Howler, the band's new promoter. Addison in particular, I think, gets a lot of laughs with his increasingly outlandish suggestions, including that it would be great publicity if one or more of the band members would just die on stage during the final concert. Reiner's DeBurgi, as in the original, mainly acts as a bit of a guide, conducting interviews that really give the movie's lead actors a chance to riff and get some laughs. The original This Is Spinal Tap helped to popularize the mockumentary comedy format and led Christopher Guest to direct several of his own. But it also tells a pretty good story. It might be episodic in parts, but you can track each character as the movie progresses, and we can easily follow the band from point A to point B. It was also a razor-sharp satire of the superficial nature and phoniness of both the music and entertainment industries, and a loving look at three buffoons who somehow stumbled their way into superstardom. Spinal Tap 2 is not as razor-sharp as the first movie, and I don't think it tells as good of a story. It's much more of a collection of scenes that, while funny, don't add up to much of a whole. There are several cameos, including from Sirs Elton John and Paul McCartney, and there is an attempt in the second half of the movie to tell a story, but it mostly just clips along for a comedy-perfect 85 minutes or so, and then kind of just ends abruptly. It's great to see all these characters again, and none of the actors have lost their touch, but the movie did leave me wanting just a little bit more. As Marty DeBurgi promised in the opening to the original movie, I don't just want the sights of Spinal Tap, I want the sounds and the smells. Strangely, some of the best jokes in the movie are during the end credits, used as outtakes, not bloopers, just unused jokes. I mean, I guess it was decided that maybe they didn't fit into the structure of the movie, but given that it already has a much looser structure than the first movie, I would have liked to have seen those clips incorporated into Spinal Tap 2 itself. It does feel like there was a conscious effort not to try to replicate iconic scenes like These Go to 11, but to instead let the movie unfold in this era, and that does help Spinal Tap 2 avoid the desperate flop sweat that other comedy sequels have had as they try to tap dance furiously and recreate the jokes that you already love. There are references to the first movie, but most of them have evolved in some way or are natural parts of the band's story, such as the search for a new drummer, a role that many celebrity cameos turn down because they don't want to be part of the band's sad legacy of deceased drummers. But the double-edged sword of trying not to be too much like This Is Spinal Tap is that it's also more hit and miss than that film. Admittedly, living up to the original is a nearly impossible task. It's one of the greatest comedies ever made. So I guess you have to judge Spinal Tap 2 on a couple of different levels. As a standalone comedy, I think it's pretty good. I laughed a lot, the actors are into it, and it doesn't feel like the phoning it in cash grab follow-up that many comedy sequels have come across as in the past. But in comparison to the original, Spinal Tap 2 isn't as funny, nor does it cohere as much. Maybe that's just a meta commentary about seeing a reunion of your favorite band and realizing that they've lost a step or two, but more likely it's just the latest example of not being able to fully catch lightning in a bottle twice. However, if you're grading Spinal Tap 2 on the original movie curve, then I think it's only fair to grade it on the decades later comedy sequel curve as well. And in comparison to movies like Zoolander 2 and Dumb and Dumber 2, Spinal Tap 2 looks like Spinal Tap 1. Despite not being able to replicate the original, this movie's far from a failure, and as I said, I do think it works on its own terms as an effective comedy. I'd say it's more successful than a movie like Beetlejuice or Happy Gilmore 2, both of which I already liked more than a lot of people did. And so on my personal scale, I'm giving Spinal Tap 2, The End Continues, a low grade, it's good score. I do think that people that choose to go see the movie this weekend will probably enjoy it. I saw it last night at one of the early IMAX fan screenings, and it actually felt kind of like a scene from the first Spinal Tap movie because we were in this big theater and there were only about, I'd say, 12 people there. So turnout wasn't great for the early screening, but the laughs that I heard were pretty consistent. The audience, or what there was of the audience, was laughing more than I was, and it was an interesting audience. We had a couple people that came in just full cosplay. There was an older gentleman sitting a couple rows ahead of me that in the final concert scene pulled out his phone and recorded it like he was at a rock concert, which was somewhat annoying and also very illegal. But the point is that I think that I maybe enjoyed it less than the other people in the audience. And for many, this is analogous to buying a ticket to a reunion concert for one of your favorite bands. And as with any rock band that's past its prime, I think it's best to buy a ticket expecting to see the faces you love, hear the songs you know, but expect a lovingly recreated but lesser version of what you remember. So those are my thoughts on Spinal Tap 2, The End Continues. What do you think? Are you going to be heading out to see it in theaters this weekend? Let me know down in the comments below, and stay tuned right here on the channel. I'll be going to see a screening of Demon Slayer Infinity Castle tonight. I should have that review for you tomorrow morning, and I'm also working on some other stuff for the weekend and going into next week, including a recap of the Emmys. Those are on Sunday night. I'll have my recap up Monday morning. But most of all, thank you for watching this video. Until next time, stay safe, and I'll see you then. Bye.